Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Truth of a Nutritionist for super busy days. I would like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land from wherever you are dialing in from today. I pay my respects to elders past and present. I'd also like to acknowledge anyone on the call with lived experience or caring for those with mental ill health. My name is Carli Phillips. If you've not been to any of our wellbeing events by CWH before, I extend a very warm welcome to you today. Today we're talking about nutrition. So I come to you as a nutritionist today, but also as a wellbeing speaker, because I'm going to share with you some case studies and some client information as well. So we're going to look at gut health, plants and protein, ultra-processed foods, top junk food swap outs, which is probably my favorite slide of all time, and eating on the run. And it is my absolute privilege to welcome Linda Wands to the call today. Good morning, Linda.
Morning.
Linda has
All Carli's viewers.
Thank you. Linda has very kindly offered to come and share a case study today. Case studies are very popular in this series, so a big thank you to Linda for joining us. If you are joining us for this hour, please use the chat box. Please use the live polls as we go through and interact as much as you wish. Linda can stay on for a few minutes after the case study to take questions. So if you've got comments, ideas, thoughts, maybe you've got a question for Linda about how we did the wellbeing training on site, feel free to pop those into the chat and we can have a discussion. We're actually going to start with the case study kicking off for today. I'd like to welcome those extra people that have just signed in. Steph and Sonia and Renee, a very warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining this session. I would like to introduce Linda Wands from Sun State Cement here in Queensland, where I've just flown into this morning. Linda is the HR officer and has partnered with us on their wellbeing program. We've covered both a nutrition topic and a sleep topic. So I thought Linda would be the perfect person to share their experience of talking about wellbeing on site. Linda, I'm going to hand over to you to share your story. Thank you.
Thank you, Carli. Thank you for having me. So in case you've never heard of Sun State Cement, we produce bulk and packaged cement powders. And we're at a heavy manufacturing site located on the Port of Brisbane. And as a business, we are really committed to safety of our employees. And we believe that injury prevention is not just about putting processes in place. It's also about connecting, to well-being of the individual, helping them to function at their best. And in support of this, we select and run programs from time to time that we feel are relevant at that time. So what does this look like for Sun State? Well, we believe that it's arming our people with the knowledge, the tools and the benefits that will support them. So, for example, we had an EAP program in place for many years, but despite many challenges experienced by our employees, which you do hear about, it has had low utilisation rates. So recently we held multiple sessions over several weeks where we brought a psychologist in site to discuss mental wellbeing with the aim of lessening the stigma around this. And we also considered that a level of education around good health and how to maintain that good health would be valuable to our employees, i.e. what food gives them fuel and what food doesn't give them fuel. And good health includes good sleep. And many people I speak with have poor sleeping patterns, and maybe I'll put up two hands here at the same time because I'm not the best sleeper. And so that's where Carli came in. So with working within our time frame, which was we were a bit finicky about our time frames. Carli was great. She held 4 back-to-back sessions covering off the nutrition and the sleep. So we chose the power of food and the sleep science and recovery. And we chose those for a couple of specific reasons, apart from what I mentioned about just overall well-being. about 30% of our workforce are engaged in shift work. And they had actually approached us asking for some best practice guidelines to eating in particular while on shift. And we'd actually run quite a big fatigue management program around 6 months earlier for them to discuss and address the challenges of shift work. But they had actually come away still feeling confused about what to eat and when to eat. For example, should they swap their day time eating patterns over to the night time when they were working on night shift, and they just really felt they just didn't know what they should be doing. And a few of them, you know, are starting to get later 30s and 40s and being quite considered that they need to look after their health. And we were also aware, you know, that at times some of them had talked to us about struggling to sleep, particularly on the day-night shift roster that we have. It's a 24/7 roster that swaps from night to days, and it can be quite hard on the employees. They love it because they get days off and they get a good wage, but it can be quite difficult. So that's where, you know, we saw that Carli provided that education of science of sleep. The health and safety manager and I got pretty excited about that and felt it would be a really good fit for us. So Carli met the brief, absolutely, providing that information in an interactive way, which allowed employees to ask questions throughout the sessions, and that really made it more personal, much more personal to people. And then other people in the room benefited from the questions, you know, the others asked. So it was really, really good, very, very interactive. We actually opened it up to all our employees, not just the shift workers. And the overwhelming consensus was that people found both subjects really very helpful. And some, you know, some admittedly were hearing it for the first time, and others it was just a reminder, you know. We all sort of, a lot of us do know what we're supposed to do, but we just sort of forget about the importance of it sometimes and need a bit of a reminder. So one positive thing that came out of the sessions was that it opened up the door to hallway discussions about the subjects. For example, certain employees were quite concerned about certain co-workers using and overusing energy drinks. And the effect that it actually appeared to be having on them, people were noticing. Carli's very frank talk about energy drinks gave permission for people to voice their concerns with one another. And at the very least, one very heavy user, Carli, to let you know, has since stopped drinking them. And it was such a great result because we were really starting to get quite concerned about the effects that they were having. So yeah, thank you. And you know, after the sessions, Carli provided us with video links and cheat sheets. Like cheat sheets, they're absolutely great. The video links as well, and we've made these available to our employees. The sleep tips we've got, she's got things on there that are specifically for the shift people as well as just general hints and tips, and it's a really great reminder. The same with the healthy eating, she's popped on tips for shift workers as well, which is really what we asked for, but in general everyone can benefit from it. So we feel that this is a resource that we can continue using for our shift people in the future. We've got them available on our local drive for people to see. So yeah, overall, we came away feeling, Carli, that you gave us pretty good value for money, and we wouldn't hesitate to call you back. So thank you. So we do like to run programs like this every year. So yeah, you'll probably get a call next year.
Thank you, Linda. It's music to my ears hearing that energy drink
up tonight. No, it was really good. I'm not even making it up. I'm not even making it up.
So good. So for everyone else on the call, we just want to thank you, Linda, for sharing your experience of doing wellbeing, both on site, but also offering those extra services. I think those things afterwards are really something that can change people's behaviour. So if anybody wants to ask any question of Linda, pop it in the chat box now. We're happy to have a bit of Q&A if you've got questions. Something I really liked about the delivery we did at Sunstate, and that was that we had blended delivery. So you had asked specifically for on-site, and I can see why, because they're a really interactive bunch, and having people in the room is really worthwhile, particularly the
Yeah,
conversations and the questions. But
yeah,
then this week you said, look, we've got some new starters. We want to share the video. We want to share the tips. And so you've got ongoing resources
yes,
as well.
yes.
The other
And just the other day, I had someone ask me, and I'm wondering now whether they missed out on the sessions because they were employed. So we've been able to direct them to these resources that we've got.
Right.
And because it's a young man who occasionally goes on shift, so
Okay.
it's good for him to have those good habits right from the start when it comes
Yeah.
to how to look after yourself when you're doing shift work.
So
Mm,
good. I love that. And then the other thing that you'll notice with Sunstate, but we do this with every client, is we customize the content to meet the role.
mm,
So in your scenario, Linda, it was very much focused on that 24/7 shift work. So
yeah.
a lot of the questions were, should I be eating dinner and breakfast at work
Yes.
during the night? Should I
Mm.
be eating my food then? When do I sleep? Is it okay to do interval sleeping and all that sort of thing? So it was great having them in the room because we could answer all those questions while we were there.
Yeah, it's
Anyone have any
really good.
questions for Linda before we move on from this case study? I feel like you've articulated it all so well, Linda. I don't think there's any
Oh,
questions. Big thank
yes,
you to you for sharing the story. It's so great to hear.
yeah, no, and it was good to catch up with you again. So thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Okay,
Bye.
so bye. I want to open up to everybody else which foods impact your well-being. So scan the code on the screen. Just use your phone and just let us know what foods come to mind when I say impacts your well-being. It might be positive, it might be negative, doesn't matter. Let us know some of the foods that impact you, and we'll have a look and see what sort of responses we are getting today before we jump into a little bit of science of nutrition. Me see if, oh, here we go. So we have chocolate. I did this once. I think it was about 2 weeks ago. We had a really big group online, and I'm not kidding you, chocolate and coffee were the only two responses over and over and over and over again. Chocolate and coffee, chocolate and coffee, chocolate and coffee. So we had a big talk about caffeine at that particular workplace. So scan the code. Let me just refresh my screen so that we're getting some answers pop up. Okay, we've got soup, fresh fruit, water, salads, coffee, tea, pasta, veggies. So I am guessing we've got some positive impacts and we've also got some negative impacts. Apologies flicking through the screen. Sometimes it doesn't refresh. We've got coffee, junk food, crisps. Okay, big variety of different things, right? So we absolutely know there's a very strong link between gut health and mental health. And this is why foods impact our mood, our energy, and our well-being. Actually, when we look at the gut health, you can see in this picture, we've got the central nervous system and the brain and the spinal cord, and it feeds all the way down to the gut in the enteric nervous system in the gut. And the microbes and the microbiome and the beautiful bacteria that we need helps keep that communication healthy. And the communication goes bi-directional. It goes from our mind to our gut and from our gut to our mind. So we know when we eat foods that have lost a lot of their color because they've been ultra processed and fried, that they cause a lot of inflammation. They may cause depression and they can cause mood disorders, as opposed to whole, colorful foods, which are great for a healthy gut. They're now a treatment for major depression and they can help reduce inflammation. So they're the foods that we want to be focused on. Can we improve our gut health? What if our gut health is not good? Yes, we can. We can eat prebiotic foods. We can eat probiotic foods. And we can also do some lifestyle things like sleeping reducing stress, increasing exercise, avoiding a lot of excess sugar or sweeteners, avoiding antibiotic overuse or smoking. So you might want to take a screenshot of these because it's not just probiotics that are good for gut health. We also need prebiotics. And prebiotics really are food for the good bacteria or the good microbiome. So they're very rich in fiber. And then you have the probiotics that are fermented that have got the great bacteria that gets that balance of healthy bacteria right. What about plants and proteins? There's a lot of talk about plant-based eating now, and I do really like that. Doesn't necessarily mean vegetarian. It really just means eating more plants in your diet, which is a good thing. So I recommend taking a trolley and filling it up with plants and fresh fruit and veg first, and then also considering getting your protein sources from some vegetarian sources, some beans, some legumes, some peas. We are very lucky now that we've got a plethora of vegetarian sources and pre-packaged sources of protein, not just beans and chickpeas and things like that, but also tuna in cans, beans that are pre-prepared, things that are so easy for us to eat. So no matter what type of diet you're doing or what your eating plan looks like, adding in more plants and adding in more protein is going to be a healthy thing for all of us to be doing. Now, what is not so healthy for us to be eating are ultra-processed foods. So these foods are harder to digest, but also through the ultra-processing process, that's not the right word to say it, ultra-processing process, we are actually reducing the amount of nutrients in there. So reducing the vitamins and minerals, but they tend to also add all different types of additives, including colors, flavors, chemicals, preservatives. So I'll give you a few examples. One example of an ultra-processed food that is really unhealthy for us because it is absolutely chock-a-block full of sugar and sometimes caffeine are soft drinks and energy drinks. So this is the number one bane of my existence as a nutritionist. I really encourage people to swap out energy drinks and soft drinks for any of the water alternatives that we now have available. And you heard Linda saying that there was actually someone in her workplace who's cut it out. It's not the first person I've heard, but it does make me very happy. If you are a high soft drink or energy drink consumer, don't cut it all out at once. Just start one at a time. Swap out one for one glass of water and just keep going. Number two, be very careful of commercial cereals, particularly the ones that are marketed for children, because they tend to be jam-packed full of both sugar and salt. But there are less processed alternatives like oats, muesli, some of the wheat-based products that are actually a much, much healthier alternative. So always check on the ingredient label on the side to check the salt and the sugar. Number three, fruit juices. Fruit juices essentially are processed to have the fiber taken out of them and to retain the maximum amount of sugar. They actually are allowed to put as much sugar in that juice as the fruit could naturally hold on the tree and still write no added sugar on it. So swap that out for a fresh juice, which is full of fiber, or water. Number four, flavored yogurts. Some of the flavored yogurts have the same amount of sugar as ice cream. I'm not kidding you. Have a look on the packet. It is quite astonishing. Swap those out for some natural or plain yogurts and check the sugar label, sugar content on them. And number five, an oldie but a goodie, white bread. Please swap out white bread for brown bread. There are some kind of halfway breads now that are very, very soft wholemeal bread. So if you like that texture, that's a nice way just to start. So that is my top 5 swap outs that I recommend for everybody. If there's any others you've got questions about, pop them in the chat and I'm happy to give you my nutritional opinion on those. What about stimulants? sugar, and salt. So some stimulants are okay. If we have 1 or 2 coffees a day, that's probably okay, as long as you're not living with anxiety or insomnia or high blood pressure. It's actually okay to have a few coffees. Just be aware that alcohol is a depressant. So if you are struggling with mood or with mental illness, probably a good idea to avoid that extra stressor on your body until you are feeling well enough to cope with that. Sugar's absolutely fine for parties and celebrations, but not as just everyday food. And the same with salt. Now, there's a live demonstration that I do, which has got the one on the left with all the blue cups. This is the amount of water we're meant to drink in a week. And the red cups is the amount of standard drinks of alcohol we are allowed in the week. Now, this is a super fun exercise. When we come out to workplaces and do this as a live demo, I get people to stand up there with trays of cups and we run a bit of banter and a bit of competition asking the audience, what are the blue cups? How many of these are you allowed? What about the red cups? And most people say, 10 servings a week? Don't you mean a day? And I say, no, I do not mean a day. I mean a week. But there is something about seeing this live demo that really sets off a reminder. I had a couple of guys from a local council say to me, every time we go to reach for another beer, we picture those red cups and we just cut one out and get a glass of water. So this is what I'm talking about, just swapping out one for one. These really small habits make a big difference. On the right-hand side, you can see a live demonstration of some drinks and the amount of teaspoons of sugar in each drink. That is enough to put anybody off drinking some of those things. And there's some real surprises in there, things like green tea or orange juice you might not think are high in sugar, but doing a demo like this is a real eye-opener when we come out to workplaces. So this might be of interest to you if you're looking at maybe Men's Health Week or Women's Health Week, or there's a no diet day in May. Any of those are good times to be doing these sorts of demonstrations. Okay, Linda told you I was very frank about energy drinks. Here we go. Are you ready? This is a small can of energy drink. It contains the same amount of caffeine as 1 cup of coffee, 5 teaspoons of sugar, and the same amount of salt as a party-sized bag of twisties. And that is just the small can. The big one has 2 coffees, 10 teaspoons of sugar, and the same amount of salt as a, not large, party-size bag of crisps. So this is why it is so critically important that we take this risky drink out of our diets. It is a risk for diabetes. It is a risk for heart disease. We absolutely do not want to be drinking these types of things. Because this is what happens when we have a whole lot of sugar. Our blood sugar goes up and down in these huge spikes when we drink these really highly refined, highly sugar foods. And when our sugar drops really low, we get really low energy. We get really hungry and lots of cravings. What we want to do is stay in this lovely green band where our blood sugar stays pretty stable. Energy stays nice and high and our hunger doesn't go quite as crazy. So that is the science behind why we want to be doing this. Let me jump into a few practical things. When we are shopping, I call this webinar Tricks of a Nutritionist because I kind of feel like I cheat the way I shop and the way I cook, but I want to share these with you because it makes it really easy. Fresh food trolley fill. In other words, fill up your trolley with fresh foods first. Go straight to the fruit and veg section in the supermarket or straight to your local grocer and fill up your trolley there. Don't forget, frozen fruit and veg are actually just as healthy. Sometimes they're cheaper and they can be just as nutritious because they are snap frozen when they are harvested, which means they actually retain all of their nutrients. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with frozen fruit and veg. Same goes with some of these products that are packaged like in tins. They retain a lot of their nutrients as well. But there's lots of things there that are healthy or relatively healthy that are ready to eat, really easy to take to work. Most of them don't even need to go in the fridge. Some of them do. The natural yogurt does, but the rest of them don't. Just makes it really, really easy to pick healthy foods. So the things you want to check when you're in the supermarket and you're looking for on the ingredient label, always compare that second column that says per 100 grams, because then you're comparing same with same if you're looking at two different products. And in the ingredient section, just be aware that the way they list ingredients is actually in order. So the highest, if the first one says sugar, you know there is more sugar in that product than anything else. So ingredients go in order. Please beware of the health aisle. It's really cruel the way supermarkets do this, put foods in the health aisle that are not healthy. They might be suitable for specific diets, like if you needed a gluten-free product or a wheat-free product, that might be the place to look for it. But a lot of these products are actually not healthy, certainly not healthier than buying fresh products. So just don't make the assumption that the health aisle is all healthy. Flip it over, always check on the ingredients list. Okay, I do want to mention carbs and protein. I'm not going to go too much into the science, but gosh, carbs get a bad rap. And I think it's a bit unfair because complex carbohydrates are actually really healthy for us. We should be eating those whether we're trying to lose weight or not, or just maintain our healthy weight. The carbs that are really good for us come from veggies that are full of fiber, come from wholemeal bread, wholemeal pasta, brown rice, legumes, peas, beans, all those types of things. So these are complex carbs that we should be eating probably with every meal. Now, the refined carbs that are ultra processed are definitely something we want to reduce. I would consider those things on the left to be party food. Maybe okay for a special occasion, but absolutely eating normal complex carbs on a daily basis is important. And so is protein. I think getting complex carbs and protein with every meal is a really good goal for us to be going for. So there might be some things on this screen that are surprising to you, some high protein sources, things like almonds, chickpeas, even some different types of veggies, fish, eggs, cheese, all different types of protein sources there. So these are things we want to be trying to eat with every meal. Now, what about diets? Do you have a question about a particular diet, or are you trying a particular eating plan for you? There are so many diets out there now, and I get asked a lot of questions about particular clinical or technical questions about particular diets that might be really strict. And my answer to most of them is that I am not a diet fan. They are really detrimental to our psychology of eating and our psychology of food and of body image. And most of the research shows us that when we change our body shape or our weight from a diet, that we tend to go back to our old weight or shape once we've finished the diet, and often even worse than that. So instead of doing that, if we did something really easy and we just followed the Australian dietary guidelines and we all ate more veg, we would be way better off than trying to follow any of these diets. So we are meant to be eating, according to the Australian Health Department, 5 serves of veg per day. Now, I do a test when I come out and do nutrition talks and live demos, and I get everyone to stand up. I wish I could see you all now. I get everyone to stand up and I say, right, sit down if you don't eat any vegetables, and I turn away so they can't see me. And then sit down if you eat 1 serve, 2 serves, 3 serves, 4 serves. And always at the end, there's usually maybe one person standing up that is eating 5 serves of veg a day. And it's a really clear demonstration how poorly Australians are actually eating in general. Actually, only 7% of Australians are getting 5 veg and 2 fruit. And that's what we're meant to be eating. So if the only change we made to our eating was to eat more veg, get our 2 pieces of fruit and drink water, we would be ticking pretty much every box in the nutrition requirement. So that would be a really easy thing for us to do. Now, I told you that I cheat when it comes to food preparation and cooking, and this is how I cheat. I don't measure, I don't weigh, I don't do portion sizes, I don't do any of that stuff. I don't do calorie counting. What I do is eat a rainbow. And the reason we do this is because every color that you see in food represents a different nutrient group. So if you are just aiming for a rainbow, you're automatically guaranteed of reaching a really wide variety of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, fiber, pretty much everything you need. Kim, great question about serving size for veg. So a typical serving size is half a cup. So about the size of a small potato or a small tomato. If we're talking about salad, it's about 1 cup. So if you put that on a plate, it would be actually really hard to get your 5 serves of veg on 1 plate, which is why we need to be eating it right throughout the day. Thank you for your question. So then your plate, this is how I cheat with our plate. General rule of thumb, half plate covered in veggies or salad, or both. Putting veggies and salad on your plate is a really good idea. So half your plate. 1/4 of your plate should be protein, and 1/4 of your plate should be carbohydrates. Try to do this for every meal if you can. It will give you a much better nutrient intake right across the day, and it will keep your energy levels lovely and high. Now, what do we do if we're not at home and we haven't got time to prepare a lovely meal and we get stuck and it's like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and we're absolutely starving? Oh, my apologies. I forgot to mention adding in some good oils to your plate to balance your meal. So some of these lovely unsaturated fats that you might get from olive oil, from nuts and seeds, or from avocado. If you can add those lovely good oils to your meal, you'll be doing a-okay on the nutrient level. Now, this is the 3 o'clock starvation mode, and now I'm standing at a vending machine, and what on earth am I going to eat? The question is really, what are the healthiest options here? Jump into the chat box and let me know. The vending machine on the left, what is the healthiest option? The vending machine on the right, what is the healthiest option? What would you pick if you were stuck? Maybe you're at a train station and this is all that is available. What do you think the healthiest options are here? Vicky says water. What does everybody else think about the healthiest options out of both machines? Water on the left and popcorn on the right. Thank you, Kim. Popcorn. Vicky says popcorn as well. So I'm definitely agreeing with you, Kim and Vicky, on the water. That top shelf has got some examples of water. I think that's coconut water in the middle. There are also some sparkling waters available that are very low in sugar, so they would be the best options. Definitely not the energy drinks, definitely not the soft drinks, definitely not the sports drinks or the juices. They're all really, really high in sugar. And on the right, popcorn, and I quite like the soy crisps as well. They're pretty low in sugar. Just check the salt content on them. I'm just checking my Wi-Fi just went a little bit wobbly. My apologies. What you want to avoid from that machine on the right are things that are full of yellow coloring, things that are full of salt, which is most of those top two rows, and also things that are full of sugar. So those bottom three rows of chocolate bars, cookies are absolutely packed with sugar. If you are going to eat a chocolate bar of some description or a muesli bar of some description, getting something that has got protein in it, like nuts and seeds, is a healthier option than without. And there are some of those available. Thanks for your question, Renee. What do you think about diet drinks? So what diet usually means with drinks is that they've taken out the sugar and they've replaced it with an artificial sweetener. To me, as a scientist, I would think the sugar is a risk factor for diabetes, and the artificial sweetener is a risk factor for different types of cancer. Neither of those drinks are healthy options. You are better off having something that's not even a diet drink, something that is just a water base. Good question, though. Meals for super busy days. So I wanted to share with you, on Sundays, I cook foods. I do a whole lot of my food preparation, and I've just put some examples up on the screen of different things that I make. So I think meal planning is a really good thing for us to be doing because it helps us to prepare some of our food. Buying foods that are made up and frozen or using frozen veg is fine. Using some of those meal providers that are delivering fresh food with recipe cards is also fine. Doing a food prep day. In this example from last Sunday, I made protein balls. I made some what were they? Cupcakes that I had with wholemeal flour and some fruit in them. I made bacon and egg quiches. I made up sandwiches, chicken and spinach and cheese sandwiches. Now, I was away last week, so I put all of those in the freezer, and my kids took them to school and put them in the toasted sandwich machine. And I made up smoothie bags so that the boys didn't grab like an up and go or a cookie for breakfast, which they probably do when I'm away. I made up smoothie bags with, I put banana, mangoes, frozen berries. I put a sprinkle of acai berry and a sprinkle of LSA in it. It was basically a powerhouse little packet full of nutrients. All they had to do was put that in the blender and add milk. But then I thought, why don't I do this for me every day? This is so much easier than cooking meals as we go. So way better than getting takeaway or getting drive-through. Do a little bit of meal prep even once a week and pop stuff in the freezer. Really good cheating way to prepare meals for super busy days. The other thing I think is just cooking a bit too much. So cooking a big portion size and popping one of them in the freezer so that you can get 2 meals out of that for the week rather than one. I like to do that because I'm not really a huge fan of cooking. The other thing I want to mention when we're talking about nutrition is not just what we eat, but also how we eat. So we know if we eat on the run, these photos here, anyone going to confess to me now that they eat during work, while they're on the phone, in front of their laptop, while they're driving the car? Do you eat and work or eat and do other things at the same time? When I ask this question to a room full of people in an office scenario, almost everybody puts up their hand and says, we actually eat sitting at our desks in front of our computers. Now, my rules for mindful eating are, no one's brave enough to confess, I see. My rules are, number 1, do not eat at your desk. Number 2, smell, look, taste, and chew your food. This is actually the definition of mindful eating. When we look, smell, taste, and chew our food, it actually digests better. It makes us feel fuller. It helps us absorb nutrients better. Number 3, take a short break to digest your food. I'm not talking about an hour. 30 minutes would be great. 10 minutes is better than none. Just walk away from your desk, because actually what you're doing to your work is you are reducing your productivity by 42%. You are increasing the amount of mistakes and the errors that you are making because you are not monotasking and focusing on that one thing. So you're actually really not improving either your eating or your work. You're way better off going and taking a break. Any questions about mindful eating or routines for eating? Okay. I hope some of those tricks have been helpful for you. Can I just ask you to jump into the chat box? I would like to hear from you. First of all, if there's any questions, go ahead and pop those in. If you have got one action so far that you can take away from today's Tricks of a Nutritionist talk, let me know what that is. What is the one thing that you think you can do? Thank you for the question. Are there any specific vitamins or supplements you could recommend to support a healthy diet and general well-being? I don't know if that's Steph and Sonia or Steph or Sonia. Thank you for your question. So yes, you can take vitamins. Generally, a multivitamin and mineral is your best bet. Worthwhile going and getting a blood test to check that any of your nutrient levels are below where they need to be. Ideally, we don't need to supplement. Ideally, we are getting enough nutrients from the food that we eat. But it is true that in Australia, our soils are deficient in zinc and in magnesium. And that if we are not eating food that is really fresh, it may have been depleted in nutrients. So some people definitely feel better when they take a multivitamin. Other people would rather just get that from their nutrition. Ideally, if we're growing our own fruit and veg and it's nice and fresh and we're cooking it at home, there'll be tons of nutrients in that. Kim, you've got a reminder to do mindful eating, especially when working from home. Isn't it interesting what we do to ourselves when we work from home? We can be our own worst enemies, right? We can work longer hours. We can sit in one spot and not move. We can work at night when we're meant to be resting. We can skip lunch. We can bring lunch to our desk. So let's try and set some new healthy habits for us, whether you're in an office, out and about, or working from home. I would like to invite you to come and join us for this brand new 6-month training program that I am starting. It is called Champion Wellbeing with Unwavering Confidence. This is created for anybody who is wanting to create a groundswell of well-being by turning your passion into a workplace reality. In other words, if you are someone who wants to learn more about well-being, if you really want to make a difference to your employees in your workplace, to your peers, to your family and friends, maybe you don't have qualifications or a background in this, but it's something you really want to feel confident in. This is a 6-month program that starts on the 15th of May. It includes monthly wellbeing workshops that I am hosting online in a group, just a small group. You also get access to e-learning courses. So there is 6 wellbeing modules coming out across the 6 months. You get ongoing support from me, which will be via a WhatsApp group, and you get peer-to-peer networking across Australia. So other wellbeing champions or other people who want to be well-being champions from workplaces right across Australia are coming to join us for this course. It is the first time I am running this course and it kicks off on the 15th of May. Enrollments are now open. If you are interested, scan the code on the screen. It will take you to the page that shows you all the information with the dates, the content, and enrollment information. I would love you to join me. If you are someone who's been on these webinars, you've been interactive, you really want to learn more, I would love to see you at this course. Jump in and enroll. We are kicking off in May. This is our wellbeing menu. This is available to download, I'm going to give you a QR code in 1 second to show you what is available in our wellbeing menu. But you can see on the left-hand side, there's actually 2 nutrition talks. There's one on tricks of a nutritionist for super busy days, which is much of the content that I've shared with you today. But when we do it on site, we do live food demos as well. And the second one is plant-based eating for good gut health. So that goes a lot into the different vitamins and minerals and specific foods and behaviors, not just what we eat, but also what we do for good gut health. And you can see there's a whole range of other topics available there. These are the delivery models you would have seen Linda talk about this morning. Thank you, Kim. No worries. So you can choose online, on site, or keynotes, but just keep in mind down the bottom, the employee engagement toolkits really make a difference to behavior change. So you supplement with a talk track, a video, a resource. In Linda's case study, we did a short video and we did a cheat sheet. And that is information and resources that her team have been using ever since we did the on-site event. These are some pictures of some government clients. You can see, so these are pictures, you can see me standing at a health and wellbeing expo at a local council, and I'm doing live demonstrations of nutrition, or one of those pictures with all the high-vis vests. That's 100 outdoor workers that we did a keynote at a conference for. We've also got some corporate clients. So we've done some of these with a couple of different corporate clients focusing on nutrition. And here is the code for you before we close today's session. If you want to download any free wellbeing tools, everything in that green bubble you can download for free. Just scan on the code. If you are interested, you want to learn a bit more about Champion Wellbeing with Unwavering Confidence course, you can also do this on that form. So scan the code. There's a question down the bottom about any support that you would like. If you want to find out a bit more information, you just tick that box of Champion Wellbeing, Unwavering Confidence, and you'll get some more info. Okay, this brings us to the end of today's session. I want to open up for Q&A. If anyone has any questions, pop them in the chat box now. Got a couple of minutes. I'm more than happy to take questions. Kim's gone off to another meeting. That's totally fine. You are very welcome. I hope everyone's got something they can take away from today to try and improve their eating, or maybe to share with your peers or some people at work or at home. Feel free to take this info back to them as well. Okay, there's no questions in the chat. So I want to thank you very much for joining me today for Tricks of a Nutritionist. Thanks, Steph and Sonia. I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye, everyone. Thanks, Vicky. Thanks, Renee. Thanks, Joy. See you later.